Chair, distinguished members, state representatives, UN agencies, NGOs, and my fellow distinguished indigenous delegates. I'm speaking on behalf of Ogaden Youth and Student Union. In the past, the Ethiopian government transferred thousands of Ethiopian settlers into the Ogaden in an attempt to change the demographic nature of the region, with the goal to eliminate the Somali national identity and to transform the Ogaden into a region of Ethiopia, in which indigenous Somalis would become an insignificant indigenous minority. When the transformation and assimilation policies failed, the Ethiopian government adopted a policy of intimidation and physical elimination. This resulted in an enormous human suffering and forced cultural assimilation. Ethiopian state-sponsored violence against Ogaden civilians is institutionalized through state policies and entrenched within their military doctrine. Ethiopia's anti-terrorism proclamation passed in 2009 is used to silence political dissidents, opposition party members, journalists, and others in civil society, and it is the youth that are systemically targeted in this way. The Charities and Societies Proclamation Law places excessive restrictions on the work of human rights organizations. Human rights groups argue that the law itself infringes on fundamental human rights and restricts civil society groups from accomplishing work. In addition, tactics such as institutionalized rape and gender-based violence is used by the Ethiopian government. Defected military officials have testified to being trained on how to use rape as a tool of intimidation. The Ethiopian administration in the Ogaden treats Somalis in the Ogaden as second-class citizens in their own country, exploits the country for economic gains in collaboration with large corporations, and deprives the Ogaden people of their fundamental human rights. Discrimination and segregation against Somalis in terms of education, healthcare, employment, and economic development is in the cornerstone of the current Ethiopian government's policies. In terms of education, there is no policy of inclusion or outreach towards this indigenous community who have a very particular way of life, many of whom are young people. This is an example of a specific form of state-regulated education that not only excludes the history of the Ogaden and ancestral cultures of the indigenous communities there, but one which excludes Ogaden youth from accessing education systems and institutions entirely. This form of alienation and marginalization has a corrosive and long-lasting impact on young people. The present PTSD of young adults living in an occupied state is unimaginable, and this is of course if a child even reaches adulthood. The United